Powerful Nerdcast assembles!
Stay dandy, baby. Granola's quest for revenge is about to kick into high gear because he actually gets his wish granted to become the strongest warrior in the universe. But it's going to come with a major price. That's right, Granola's wish is going to have some monkey paw-like stipulations behind it. And we get to learn all about those details in the latest chapter of Dragon Ball Super. I have to say that I am really enjoying this arc so far, mostly because they're focusing on a brand new character who is remarkably interesting. I mean, don't worry, old school Dragon Ball fans, you're still gonna get those classic Goku and Vegeta moments of watching them train. In fact, most of this chapter following their story shows that Goku is still trying to master Ultra Instinct, while Vegeta, slowly but surely, is starting to learn the powers of the Gods of Destruction. And Beerus seems to have a lot of fun teaching him how to do this, showing that there's a big difference between simply using God of Destruction power to erase something and just using a Ki Blast. A Ki Blast just destroys something. Using the power of destruction quite literally erases it from existence. It also comes with a really big explosion, which Beerus really seems to love and gets big kicks out of, and Vegeta seems to have a lot of fun utilizing that technique in this chapter, although he cannot use it to the same level that Beerus does, as he's only able to destroy a small little pebble that hangs out on his finger, but it still manages to leave like a massive explosion, which ends up sending the Oracle Fish flying, and this seems to make Vegeta pretty happy, as the Oracle Fish continues to jabber on about the fact that the strongest warrior in the universe is going to rise up. Vegeta thinks it's him, Goku thinks it's himself, but actually it's Granolah. So let's actually get to that first and foremost. Granolah has actually gotten his wish. However, initially the dragon makes it clear that it's not within his power to make him this strong, to put him like just below the Gods of Destruction and Zeno. He just simply doesn't have the ability to actually do that, because in order to do this, he would have to utilize the latent strength of Granolah, which apparently is not all that crazy to begin with. However, he does give him this other alternative, where if he sacrifices the remaining years of his life, he can make him more powerful. In fact, we learned that his species of aliens live up to 2 centuries, about 200 years, and he's already about 50 years old. So he has to sacrifice the next 150, and boom, basically, he's donezo. But he does get incredibly powerful at this moment, and you even get to see that it goes through like a drastic change. His hair ends up growing a lot longer, making him kind of look like a Super Saiyan 3 character, and he's not a big fan of the super long hair. He ends up cutting it off immediately, but he also tests out some of his brand new abilities, which are strikingly similar to what Vegeta is actually doing with Beerus. I don't want to say if this is like the power of destruction quite yet, but he's able to sort of like telepathically lift up a rock and make it just like explode and turn into dust. Very similar to the God of Destruction power, but maybe it's just strictly Ki Blasts altogether. It's kind of hard to say, but the fact of the matter is, Granolah is now super powerful. He leaves Planet Cereal, leaving Monaito in a state of shock, basically saying, "What have I done? What have I created? I shouldn't have egged him on." Now he's going to go on a path of revenge and destruction, which simply cannot be quenched. So Granolah decides that he's gonna go meet with the Heaters because he wants to figure out where Frieza is. And when he meets up with Alec and his goons, he immediately starts boasting about the fact that he's incredibly powerful now and he'll have no problem in taking down the intergalactic overlord. Alec doesn't really believe this at first and decides to try and kick him out of the joint as they're very busy and trying to enjoy some saucy entertainment. That is until suddenly Granolah proves that he is incredibly powerful by being able to take out 2 of his goons. We don't get to see a battle against Gas, which I think is kind of disappointing, but it was kind of cool to see Oil and Maki battle against him. And it wasn't like the greatest fight at all, but again, it's just establishing that Granolah is incredibly powerful and can take these guys. Oil basically is just a big, dumb, super strong guy. There's not much to his abilities overall, aside being able to pick up very large objects and throw them, and he seems to be very powerful in, you know, just the strength department. And Maki seems to utilize these key things like on her hands, turning them into claws and being able to fight. But again, it doesn't really do anything to Granolah whatsoever. And again, they also establish again that he can basically just touch objects and turn them into dust. Oil just throws like this big giant piece of concrete at him, which he just immediately eradicates. It's pretty freaking awesome looking. And then Gas jumps in and Alec's like, nah, you know what? Let's stop right here. It's pretty clear you're pretty damn powerful, and you taking out Frieza seems like that would be pretty cool. But the fact of the matter is, we don't know where Frieza is right now, and they're going to try and figure out this information, and then Granolah goes about his merry way. This is when we get to learn that the Heaters have another plan here. They don't necessarily want Frieza to be taken out quite yet, and they realize that since Granolah is so powerful, well, he could end up being the next big top dog, and that would be really bad for business. So their next plan is that they want to take out Granolah, and the only people that they feel can actually do this are Goku and Vegeta. And while they don't know them personally, they know about their reputation due to the fact that they took down Moro, who's kind of a big deal in the universe, so they realize how strong these two really are, and they're the only ones who seem to have something of a chance of taking down Granolah. So, as the end of the chapter states, the three characters are coming together, fated to have an epic battle to see who is going to be the strongest warrior in the universe. And while all of this is exciting, I'm more excited to see what's going to happen next and what characters are actually going to get involved. So, what's the rundown on the latest chapter of Dragon Ball Super? There was a lot of things to like about this chapter. One, just the fact that the dragon has created this sort of like stipulation that he can utilize his remaining lifespan to make him more powerful is an interesting concept. We haven't seen too much of the dragons doing stuff like this in the series. The fact that he's a Dragon Ball dragon does sort of change his abilities overall, and it makes sense that he wouldn't be able to give him such immense power. But the fact that he's bargaining with him and being able to do this, again, shows that there are some other things about these dragons and their abilities that we don't quite know yet. A lot of the times, especially when the Earth Dragon is around, he just seems pissed off to be summoned. He just wants to get the hell out of Dodge, whereas Porunga seems to have no problem with giving wishes, but he's just very formal about it, just gives the wish and he leaves. This is a dragon that does a little bit of bargaining and seems to be a little more helpful. It really seems that every single time a specific dragon is created, it's a sort of a reflection of the Namekian who actually does create them in some senses. And being that Monaito is kind of a caring individual who seems to look out for other people, that can be sort of reflected in his dragon, who's trying to genuinely help Granolah. And I think that's actually kind of cool and interesting for the series. As for Granolah actually getting his superpower, I can't say how strong he really is at this point. I mean, 150 years worth of power, that could certainly be a lot. It's kind of hard to believe that he's as strong as Goku and Vegeta at this point, especially considering we've seen what they do, but the fact of the matter is, if there's one phrase that the Dragon Ball series has always sort of lived by, is that there's always a bigger fish. There's always someone out there who's going to be a little bit stronger. It's just the cornerstone of the entire series. It also gives an excuse for our characters to continue to get stronger themselves. Now, as for where the future of this arc is going, man, there's so many directions that they could actually go with. I love the fact that, of course, Goku and Vegeta are going to be going up against Granolah at some point, but I don't see Granolah as a villain, and I don't see him as the major antagonist of this arc. I still have a feeling that the Heaters are going to be involved in some of the bigger villainy that's going to appear in this arc, but I'm not sure how that's all going to happen, and I'm really interested to see if Frieza and his army are actually going to appear here too, as Frieza's reintroduction to the series has been, I think, one of the most interesting things about Dragon Ball Super, considering that he's still a bad guy, but he also is not as evil as he used to be. And seeing his interactions during the Tournament of Power Saga, or even the small moments during the Broly film, I thought were interesting. Speaking of Broly, I want to see him return in some capacity. I don't know if this is going to be the arc to bring him back into the storyline, as, you know, Elec mentions that the Saiyans are going to be their answer to taking care of Granolah, and he knows about Vegeta and Goku. But if he learned a little bit more about Broly, ooh, man, who knows what could potentially happen here. We could be looking at one hell of a massive war, which is at our doorsteps here in Dragon Ball Super. I think that would be really freaking awesome to incorporate all of these crazy elements into one. There's still so much more promise for what this arc could bring, and I really do hope that they're going to take their time to build it up just a little bit more. I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm ready to see some really awesome action, but what I really loved about the last arc was that it took its time to build up the story of Moro instead of just jumping into right all of the action scenes and everything. I know the opinions on the Moro arc are kind of mixed. At least that's what I've seen, you know, amongst the community. I really enjoyed it personally. I'm one of those people who likes a good story just as much as the action in Dragon Ball, and I think it's so easy to dog Dragon Ball all the time for just calling it like a big, dumb, loud action series. I think when they can come up with an interesting story, it can really complement the action in the series, and I think this is doing a great job of doing that so far, as well as, again, just expanding the overall universe of Dragon Ball, which, again, has always been very fascinating to me, especially with all these brand new characters. But again, going back to the Heaters, I feel like they're going to be like one of the major threats of this entire arc. I don't know if it's going to be the leader Elec or if it's actually going to be Gas, because they keep building him up. They just refuse to, like, let this guy fight against Granolah at this point. And with Elec's brand new knowledge of learning everything from Zuno, there is the potential that everything is just going to work out for them. They're interesting villains. They're not super powerful or anything, but they work in the shadows in really interesting ways, and I can't wait to see how that's going to pay off for them, and maybe even seeing the alliance that they're going to potentially form, maybe even with Frieza as well. There's just so many things that could make this arc even better, and waiting every month for it is just excruciating. But this chapter right here I thought was a lot of fun. It featured some really great action of showing off Granolah and his fighting style and how strong that he's become, the big revelation about his wish and what it's going to mean for him, a character that potentially is going to die very soon. Like I said, I don't think he's going to be a villain. I think he's going to end up being a new ally, and how his story ends I think is going to be kind of interesting, because they could just let him die, and that could be like the end of Granolah. Or, of course, they could bring in another Dragon Ball wish to make sure that he is going to live for his remaining years, but that could come to the sacrifice of utilizing or removing all of his powers. We're just going to have to wait and see. Otherwise, I thought that this was a really solid chapter of the series with some great artwork, some animation. Overall, I thought that this was a pretty damned awesome chapter of Dragon Ball Super. Getting to learn the revelation about Granolah's wish and getting to see him beat the crap out of the Heaters was nothing short of just fun. Again, the artwork continues to look really good in this series, just classic Dragon Ball at its peak with really great character designs, and again, just going on a fun trip through the universe, seeing alien planets and more of Goku and Vegeta training. What's not to love? It's more Dragon Ball, and I think it's some really solid material. I'm giving this chapter a 5 out of 5. I really loved it, but your thoughts may differ. You may not have liked this chapter. You may have loved this chapter even more than me. Well, it's time to tell me why or why not in the comments section below what you thought about this chapter with Granolah and his big wish, what you think is going to potentially happen in the future, and what you hope to see from the rest of this brand new Granolah, the Survivor arc. Thank you guys so much for watching this review. Please subscribe to the channel for more videos just like this one. If you liked this video, use your God of Destruction abilities to hit that like button. Don't erase it from existence. Just, you know, hit it. It helps out these videos a lot. I'd also like to go ahead and take this time to thank all of my patrons. You guys are the gods of destruction of Ace Guru because you make monthly donations every single month, and I can't thank you enough for that. Remember, first-time donators, I'll review an anime series of your choice, as well as adding your name to this list of amazing people that you see right here on the screen. They are the producers of Ace Guru. And speaking of Patreon reviews, I have a couple that are going to be coming up very soon, so please stay tuned for the channel for all of those. So thank you guys so much for watching this review. I'll see you all next time, and as always, stay down there, baby.